So I made a plane. It's 1 by 1 meters. It's got segments on, which I don't need. I'm gonna make it like 1 segment by 1 segment and snap it to the center. Job done. And I will unwrap it. So I probably don't need to unwrap it because it should already be unwrapped as like a square for the texture. You'll see now if I open the UV editor, it is already unwrapped. So that's the whole texture size and the whole plane is already there. So it's grand, perfect. So job done. I can just export this, and this is going to be my Retopology plane. I will poly, file, export, selected, and again, as always, make sure you know where you're exporting it to. I'll set assign to Retopo plane. No animation. Grand. Okay, and then I'm going to save this max file, so I have the original Retopology plane here. Save this as whatever it is. So you'll see this a lot. There's a lot of ways to do this, but you'll see like where they take a low poly. Let me make it like a low poly object. They'll bring it, they'll subdivide it so it gets high poly, which you saw last week if you remember that. Making it smoother and like getting more polys onto it. I don't know if you remember. So it gets smoother. And then you can either, from here, you can either project back, so you get the detail from the subdivision, or you can continue to sculpt. And if you change the actual topology, then you have to retopologize. So you have two options here at this point. If you subdivide it and give it some small detail, you can project small detail back to the low poly. The way I would always say it is kind of anything detailed up to about a relative inch. I know it's not an inch in the thing, but like when you look at an object and if you see like the details kind of looking like it pulls up way too much, you probably need to start retopologizing. So then if you go all the way, this is a completely different. You need to retopologize, so you get like and then you project this, so you get the high poly detail onto the retopology. Alright, so basically if you change the shape of it, you need to retopologize. If you don't change the overall shape, but you just add some small details, you can project straight away. Okay? The low poly stuff is known as a base mesh. So you start off, you see a lot of them, start like for characters as well, they'll start off with a really crappy base mesh. And then Nick, you need to tell me when you come in, man, so I can mark you off. You start off with the base mesh and then you sculpt it and you retopologize it. So I'm going to show you just like how to get detail into a very simple one, so it makes sense for future. Okay. Where's Nick? Okay. So I have that. I've done. That's exported. I'm going to go to my bus. Any questions so far? Spice. Option 1, option 2. Okay, cool. So I'm going to open file, and I'm going to open my Retopo. Oh my god, go away. Cool. So right now I can't really sculpt it. If I hit W for wireframe, it should be on. If I go to my sculpt tool, sculpt, my sculpt layers, remember never sculpt on this layer, always make a new layer. And if I sculpt now, it's not going to really do anything because it's pure flat look. There's no segments on it at all. Remember, it's only one segment by one segment. I can do it on the edges because there's one vertex there, but oh no, it doesn't even let me. So this is not useful for me, so I need to subdivide. You all remember subdividing stuff? Yeah? Oh. Shift D creates more polygons. Why can't I see the polygons? Oh, you can. Can you see it? Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to see. But every time I shift D, you see there's more polygons showing up. Right? So now I've like subdivided 3 times and it's like 64. So let me just keep subdividing loads. I'm on like, okay, I'm on like 1 million polys now. So that's quite a lot. So now I can sculpt. That one is on sculpt layer 0, so it's not useful. Okay, cool. So let me just do like some really simple. Oh, why do I have a stamp on? Oh, I have a stamp on. So a stamp is like a brush, basically. I can turn it off. So I'm just gonna do like some really simple stuff here. So a lot of the time, people ask me like, why would you be using this instead of using Substance? And to be fair, in the old days, you would only have to use this. That's the only way you could do it. But nowadays, you do have Substance as your option. Like the only reason I use this nowadays is for like, if you're trying to do cloth or something like that, and you're trying to make it look like a cloth texture. But in Substance, you can't really paint it that well. But you can use this. But if you're happy with Substance, go ahead. So let me just do that. Let's pinch a little bit of them. Put some little squishies in there. I'm not bothering to make it look beautiful. FYI as well, you can also, as you saw me accidentally do, you can stamp stuff by using like different brushes, and you can drag in any brush you want into here, like any image, so you can do stuff like that. Alright, so you can see little things like that. Again, you can do this in Substance as well. It might be a little better in here. You might get some more fine control, but it's not like one's better than the other or whatever. And you can stamp like almost anything. Right? That's too much. And your strength controls how deeply it bumps in, basically. Coolio. Stencil is like a projection. I don't know if you remember that from last week, but it's the same. It's like a projection. So I can do stuff. Oh, that's way too much. Because my sculpt strength is too high. No stamp image and sculpt strength. Right, so just put those on. Okay, cool. And height. So I've got this, which is a super high poly. It's 1 million polys. Let me turn out the wireframe. Looks like that, and just looks like whatever. Like, you know, you can do whatever you want with this. But now let me try and get this onto that 1 polygon plane that I had before. So that 1 polygon plane with a normal map looks like this, like close enough. It won't look exactly the same, but close enough. So let me export this one.
I'm sure when you look at the plane from the side, you will see that it's 2D.
Totally you will. Totally you will.
Draw on that in Photoshop and put it on the texture.
Because this reacts to light. So like, it's like a normal map. Yeah, normal maps react to light. So did you forget?
Yeah.
That's alright. Okay, cool. So hopefully this will work. So file. You can send to 3ds Max, by the way, and you just send it as a new scene. But I'm going to export just to have it. Export selection. Oh, nothing is selected. You need to go to the object list, click the plane, file, export selection. And it probably will, so you probably don't want to be sculpting that high. But see, like you may be surprised, because if you have a 1 million polys and it's nothing's happening, sometimes it is able. Have you tried?
Over 3,000 with my laptop.
Are you serious? Over 3,000?
Yeah. So that's like a museum assignment. Oh man. So,
maybe time for a new laptop.
yeah, I get one for the 21st. So.
You are?
Yeah, I have to wait till February.
Can't you get it earlier?
What?
Can't you get it earlier?
No.
No. Okay, so that should be exporting here. It should tell you. And this should be done soon. Come on. Are you exported or what? And then I'm going to import it in here. Let me just see whether it's... There we go. So it is exported. All this is fine. Import it. Did that work? Oh no, they're called the same thing. Damn it. Okay, so that's an issue sometimes in Macs. If you try to import something with the same name, it sometimes doesn't import or it overwrites this thing. So let me just give this a different name and import it again. Retopology poly. Sure. No? Yeah? No? Looks like it's doing something. Come on, Betty. Yay! Okay, cool. So now I don't need my box for now. Oh, I'm not going to save this, am I? It's terrible. Okay, cool. And so this is the low poly here. Let me just rename them so it's easier to see. So low poly is that one, and the other one is the high poly. Coolio. Alright, so we turn off the low poly, and I'm going to turn off wireframe so you can see. So you see it's like the whole thing. If I hit 7, it's 1,000,000 polys, and it's just that entire thing is in there. Okay. So all this detail is really good and really cool, but it's 1,000,000 freaking polys, so it's super expensive, and I don't want that. So let's see if I can get my low poly to look like the high poly using a normal map without actually spending 1,000,000 polys. So this one is a little complicated. So what I need to do is I'm basically going to overlay the low poly more or less like I built them both from the same plane, so when they brought in, they're exactly on top of each other, which is perfect for me. That's good. So let me see if this will work. I don't know if I need to push them up a bit, but let's see. I'm going to see if this works like this. Otherwise, I might need to move around some stuff. So what I'm going to do now is a thing called rendering, which you know how to do. Like, you know that shift Q? That's a rendering. There's going to say, oh no, what's happening? It's giving me the whole, okay. So that's a render, but I want to do a render to texture. So not only do I want to render the image, I want to put that image and save it as a texture. And I wanted to specifically save it as a normal map, right? Because this will take a normal map. So I'm selecting my low poly, rendering, render to texture. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, there we go. Cool. And here we go. So this is a little bit complicated, but we don't need to look at a lot of stuff. So objects to bake, and baking is like when you render stuff onto it, you're baking it. So the one I want to bake is the low poly, because that's the one I want. And because I was selecting it, it already says, oh, okay, you want to render to this one. And then I want to do this thing called projection mapping, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to project the high poly material onto the low poly. Okay. And then I need to pick which object it is, and I want to pick. Oh, what am I doing? What happened? Pick the high poly. So it knows that I want to project the high poly onto the low poly, and this is especially important in very complicated scenes, but there's a lot of shit going on. So you need to be sure, like, oh, Max, ignore everything else except my high poly. So it knows that I'm gonna, excuse me, project the high poly onto the low poly. I'm gonna use, for mapping coordinates, I'm gonna use existing channel because we already unwrapped it. So I'm gonna use the unwrap that I have. Otherwise, it will use an automatic unwrap, which I don't want. And leave that. And go down. And now I've ignored everything else, which you should do. And then the output. So what am I going to render to? So I'm going to add, and I want a normal map, right? Add element. And where do I save it? So the name will be plain normal map. File name and type. Let me call it like, want it to be a PNG maybe. And let me put it into that same asset design. Where is it? Retopology. PNG file. So low poly plain normal map. Save. and just go optimize palette. So basic. Coolio. And then for map size here, that's like the resolution basically. So I can go like 2048, that's very high resolution. I can go like 128 by 128. Which one to do literally depends on like how far away is this object going to be. If it's going to be right up to the player's face, it probably needs to be really high res. I'm going to do a really high res one just to see what it looks like. Cool. The rest of it, I pretty much leave okay. And then I go back to the low poly. And you'll see, because I was selecting a low poly and doing all this projection, it automatically added this projection modifier. Okay? And this projection modifier is kind of saying like, hey, what am I projecting to this low poly? And you can see that it has this thing called this blue thing, and that's like a cage. If I had a sphere, object, that cage would be all the way around the sphere. Right? It just kind of always goes around, but because it's flat, it just goes a little bit above the plane. Does that make sense? All right. So let me try that. Gonna go to the cage. I'm gonna reset it to show you what you're doing. Reset, and I'm gonna push it. So basically, it's gonna take any detail that's in between that blue area and the actual polygon. Okay. So that's done, and I'm gonna try and render. And don't care. Let's see if this works. Cool, rendering fine. Any red areas are areas that it didn't pick up anything. So it looks pretty good. We'll see. It only shows you the diffuse, by the way. It doesn't show you the normal map, which is real dumb. But I can go and look for that normal map, and let's see whether it works. File Explorer, where is it? Asset Design 2, Retopology, and the PNG is here. Not bad. Not bad at all. Right, so you can kind of see all that detail that I made that's in that PNG. Right, so let's now try it in Unity. Sure. Or Sketchfab, actually. Let me just try in Sketchfab. Same this. To test. Oh, come on. Okay, cool. So the actual low poly plane is here. That's the low poly one. I can't import it like that for some reason. Import new asset. Where is it? Cool, and there it is, and you see like it's just a plane, nothing special. And I will make a new material, create new material. Hey, let me get your name down later. And then for normal map, I need to import the other image. So go to the material and into normal map. Fix now, and you can see that I have that detail on it. Let me make it really smooth so you can see the detail. So you can see that it's reacting to light and stuff. And if I put like a point light on it, it will react like a normal map. It is a normal map. So it reacts as if it's got that detail. So it's not as good as the original version, but it's a pretty good analog. And also this is a one polygon thing. Right? So it's using that detail from that super high polygon thing on this. And people use this for everything, from like really high poly characters to like this kind of stuff, anything, any kind of textures, right? So Is that okay? Any questions on that? No? Okay. Do you all want to try that? Okay. And I can show you some like character modeling later. Like just really simple baby steps character modeling.